All right, so it looks like we've got quite a few people in the room, but I think maybe we'll give people another minute or two to join before we dive in.
Yeah. And for anybody that is in the waiting room, while we take the next couple minutes here, we do have a Q&A section at the bottom where you can post questions, and I'll try to monitor that to ensure that your questions are answered. So please feel free to pop those in there, but I know Zoom can be a little arduous at times, so it is down at the very bottom of your screen. You should see a Q&A option to enter a question.
And then also today's session is being recorded, and we'll send out the full recording afterwards if anybody isn't able to sit through the whole thing. I think it'll probably be about 30, 35 minutes, depending on how many questions come up. All right, we're 2 minutes past. I think we just get rolling.
So, well, first and foremost, thank you all so much for being here. We are very, very excited about what we're about to show you today. It's something that our team has been working very hard on and putting a lot of hours and energy and effort into. So we're super excited to introduce that to you today. Eric, the next slide for me. You all know our faces. I'm Justin, and Eric, our co-founder, is going to be doing the presentation today. I do want to say, though, that we have a really, really awesome team of dedicated individuals behind us that don't get on camera, that you guys don't see on a regular basis, that have done a lot of really hard work to put all this together. And we want to thank our team for really digging in and trying to find something that we feel like will really change how we approach the tourism industry. So super excited to get into that. Today's agenda, what we are going to cover is AI. And if you haven't heard AI, then you might be living under a rock, because that is the buzzword that is ingrained in every bit and portion of our life. So we're going to talk about where we're going with AI. We want to talk about the data enrichment component of what we're doing with AI and get ultimately into via our chatbot. So I'm really looking forward to Eric going through this presentation. Again, we do have the Q&A section down at the bottom there. So within the Q&A section, if you have any questions, pop them into the chat, and I will either answer those directly in the chat, or I will ask Eric for help if I don't know the answers.
Awesome. Thanks, Justin. So I think our last webinar was maybe in June when we started talking about this, and this feature, this new piece of functionality, is really kind of core to our mission of continuous improvement, basically continuing to innovate and serve clients and, of course, their visitors in the best way that we can. And I would echo, with Justin's comments, the amount of patting on the back going around the dev team right now is uncanny, because they really poured everything into this, and I'm excited to showcase it. So I'll go ahead and jump over to the first slide here, but I think, as just mentioned, everybody's hearing a lot about what's going on with AI. It's basically a staple in most people's daily life, even if they don't know it. So there's over 77% of all of the modern devices are using AI in some way, shape, or form. Almost every single social media system is using AI as well. And when you start looking at AI use cases from a business perspective, the adoption rate and just the overall quantity of use cases is much higher and accelerating. So I think the last time I read up on it, that about 90% or more of businesses report either using AI actively in their processes, or at least actively testing it and exploring ways to take advantage of it. And so from the visit widget perspective, we've been using AI for quite a while. So we use it for programming purposes. We use Claude and Cursor, doing some code reviews and even some scope definition. Some of those LLMs are getting to the point where one of the limitations with AI is the context window. And so if you can only tell it to build a component for something, it doesn't necessarily know where that component is going to fit inside an entire code base. And so those context windows are getting better, the tools are getting smarter, and it is getting to the point where we can actively use AI to create features with pretty minimal prompting. So it's super powerful. We also use GPT and Gemini for generative content creation and language translation. So we now, if you haven't heard, we do have auto translations available. So if you have, visitors that are speaking other languages, we can basically run all of your descriptions on events, tours, places through Gemini, and it'll return whatever locales are desired to showcase within the widget and the apps. We also have roadmap plans to incorporate AI into the command console for a couple reasons. One is just basically a 24/7 support assistant. So I know my team is great about monitoring emails and responding quickly when things come up, but we don't actually work 24 hours a day. So that'll be a great use case when you need to ask a question. We'll have the system trained on all of our features, all our functionality and knowledge base. And so if you can't remember how to create a tour or categorize an event or something, it'll have quick responses for you to do just that. The other thing I'm really excited about with AI in terms of bringing it into our full ecosystem is actually leveraging it to help clients interpret their analytics data, and then from there create automated drip campaigns. So like push notification journeys for users to re-encourage engagement for a future visit after a past visit has occurred, because we can use the data points from what that person did, how they spent their time, what listings they viewed, what events they attended, to hopefully encourage them to visit again in the future by prompting them with something similar that might spike their interest. So that's kind of an upcoming phase that we're planning with AI is really bringing it into the full ecosystem. But what we're going to show you today is a really big step forward. So all that is to say that AI is not just here to stay. It's accelerating, and it's shifting the way that we work, play, and even sleep. There's like AI-based beds now that automatically regulate the temperature based on your own body heat. So it's out there, and we wanted to approach this in a way to basically understand how we could best leverage AI to enhance and maintain control of the narrative of our destinations without, if you think about people going to GPT or going to Gemini or Grok and asking for travel plans, in that situation, we're not receiving the analytics and we can't promote the destination or the attractions the way that we want to in our voice and our brand, within our brand standards. And so what we wanted to do was give people the same, super intuitive, convenient way to leverage AI when planning a trip, but really set it up so that we can maintain the narrative that you want about your destination and also restrict the content to the actual attractions and activities that you are specifically promoting. So it's not just going to throw out random stuff or send people to another destination that they weren't even looking at. So that's really what we were trying to accomplish here. And in order to achieve that, the first step for us was coming in and backfilling data. So AI is great for like repetitive tasks and automating things. And so when we're syncing 1,100 data sources every day, there are naturally going to be gaps in the content. We might have descriptions missing or stuff that's not categorized correctly. And so what we've done with AI and the backend logic is that when we run our syncs, we use data enrichment to make sure we have the fullest picture, the most correct information about each attraction. And so that includes things like what are the most popular months to visit a particular attraction? What is the group composition that would be ideal for an attraction? So if we're, sending someone to some kind of nightlife thing versus a kid-friendly, amusement park. We're also using data enrichment for ratings. So we can actually help with prioritization on which items are being rated more highly and being returned more highly in the AI results. Hours of operation was huge for us. So if you think about, an AI trip builder that you prompt, you say, I want to plan me a trip for this weekend. I want to go to some fancy restaurants and XYZ, and it returns a restaurant that's not open that weekend, then you're probably not going to trust the other results or continue using the tool. And so the hours of operation was really important for us to be able to source automatically, because it's very difficult to, you can't expect a client to keep up with the hours of operation for every business across their destination. So being able to automatically pull that stuff in was really a crucial component to make sure that the itineraries and the information we generate are accurate for people when they're actually coming to visit. Coming soon, we'll actually have AI generated reviews, which will essentially be a summary of existing reviews that are out there. Descriptions is going to be on a case-by-case basis when clients do have limited descriptions, like say there's only maybe 20 or 30 characters within a description and we want to return something more in depth, then we'll actually use the LLMs to create descriptions for those places that are lacking. And then activity costs as well is another item that's coming soon to data enrichment. So, all of this was kind of the first step for us. The data enrichment syncs they are up and running for various clients, and it's using Gemini Flash 2.5 right now. But we're actually adding the ability to toggle between different LLMs. So if a client preferred to, maybe the results sounded better from Gemini or from OpenAI GPT, we'll be able to quickly toggle between those different interfaces for the data enrichment and the chatbot as well. Now, I was going to cover some of the AI trip planner, but I think most people have seen that. So we're going to go ahead and jump right into the chatbot today. And so, with the trip planner, basically people can input certain things. They can input their time frame that they want to visit, their interest, their travel group, and maybe a specific location if it's a large regional area. But the natural feeling of a chatbot is just it's so much more rich because you can ask it literally anything. It's not structured or guided in a certain way. So instead of just saying, plan me a trip, you can ask it about the history of a particular location, or what events are happening this weekend. And so what we built with VIA, which VIA stands for Virtual Itinerary Assistant, is a full free-form chatbot that is restricted to the content within each client's system. So we're training the chatbot to only return places or events that are being promoted within your database, on your website or in your CRM. We're also doing some prompt engineering and enrichment to make sure that the chatbot is basically establishing a positive tone. It's coming back with positive remarks, trying to encourage people and incentivize them to actually complete the visit that they're planning, and make sure that we're showing the best that the destination has to offer. So VIA is it's an artificial intelligence chatbot that's available within the widget and the apps for end users. And it supports chatbot responses, just like textual responses like other chatbots, but it combines them with a contextually relevant map view. So this diagram you're seeing on screen is basically a user input that goes through the system with the prompt engineering and pulling enriched data. And then the contextual AI generation generates the textual responses in addition to a map-based view with the relevant POIs or entities that were returned in that response. Now, we're not limiting the chatbot to only return the descriptions and information. We're telling it to only pull results from the list of places and events, but to use its own knowledge to enhance the information. So, for example, when I get into this, we can ask it for the history of the Alamo, and it's gonna tell us a lot of stuff about the Alamo that we don't already have in our system. So it can reach a little bit further and really give people a lot more information. It's just limited to only returning information on the places and events that you guys have in your systems. So we'll go ahead and jump into the demo. So I'm going to move this over. All right. Is my browser coming through, Justin? Okay. So basically what you're seeing here is the instance of the chatbot where we've got a new look and feel for the widget button that says Ask AI. Now that is configurable. We still have positioning placement. And of course, if we wanted to adjust the text that shows up on this, we can. But it is minimalistic. People know that it's AI. It's a pretty common thing now. And so it hovers, and of course, it's going to match the brand that each client has configured for their instance. And so when I click on Ask AI, it opens up a small chat window. So at this point, I'm going to go ahead and prompt it with what I would call like an irrelevant prompt. So I'll ask it, what is the meaning of life? And so just to showcase basically the way that it works is it's it's interpreting that information, but since it's not related to travel to San Antonio, it's not actually going to return a real result. Now, if I ask it, what is the best time to visit? Um, it already has the knowledge that I'm planning to visit San Antonio because that's where this is installed. And so when I pass that in, it loads up, a textual response with information that's not necessarily in our database about San Antonio. So it's telling me, that spring is arguably one of the most popular times. Fall is similar to spring, winter, if you don't mind cooler temperatures, and then summer can be a little bit warm. But ultimately, anytime you choose to visit San Antonio, you'll find plenty to see and do. So it's still returning all of that information in a positive context. Now, once I get into a question like that actually returns place-based or event-based results, so I'm going to ask it where are some must-see attractions. So at this point, what happens is it returns the data to me, and because there are POIs related to the prompt, it's loading up that map-based interface with the real-time results for those actual items. So you can see here it explains, that there's no visit to San Antonio is complete without a stop at the iconic landmark, the Alamo. It also talks about the Riverwalk and then some of the missions in the area. So these items in this condensed modal are still plannable, so you can easily add them to your plan directly online. You can also opt to open the full trip planner at any point during this flow. And if I click into one of these items, it's going to automatically open the full experience, take me to the detailed view of the Alamo, where I can see hours of operation, the details or description, and it's going to maintain the dialogue of my chat at the same time. So we'll go ahead and prompt it for more. So I'm going to ask it for the history of the Alamo, like we just talked about. And so you can see here, this information is not being drawn directly from the description shown on the left-hand side of the screen for that listing. It's actually giving me, a full-blown description of different events and things that happened, historical events that happened at the Alamo. So we're not limiting the LLM or the AI to only the data for each listing, but to the listings themselves as the responses. Now, we recently we added events into the database, so I'm super excited. If I wanted to find out what holiday style events are coming up, it's going to load up, a list for me with all of the different things happening in the area. And you can see each of these are the actual native listings, the map updates to show me the relevant POIs for each of those events on screen. And again, just like the place listings, if I find something of interest, I can add it to my plan directly from the chat, from the map info window, or directly in line on that particular listing. Now, there's a couple other use cases I do want to showcase. So let's say, show me highly rated hotels near the Riverwalk. So now we're getting a little bit more complex than just kind of general prompts. And so what that's going to do is basically load up the different hotel options that are available that are actually within a certain proximity of the Riverwalk. And so you can see here, it's loading up all of these items. The questions can go beyond just show me a list of places, show me a list of events. It's more of a dual concept question. Where are the hotels that are near, XYZ or the Riverwalk in this scenario? Now, you can take that a bit further and we can generate a full-blown itinerary. So I'm going to go ahead and I already have these prompts ready. So I'm going to say, please create an itinerary for me and my family with a visit to the Alamo and other historic sites. I want to stay at Hotel Valencia. Please suggest other things to do, including outdoor activities and fine dining. And so when we throw that in, it's so fast. That sounds like a wonderful plan for a family trip to San Antonio, centered around history, outdoor activities, and fine dining, all while staying at the beautiful Valencia. So you can see it's breaking down my trip for me day by day. You could plug in the specific dates that you wanted to go. You could say just 3 days or maybe next weekend or whatever. And it's basically telling me in like a super, uh, intuitive format when and where I should do certain things. So in the morning, I'll start at the Alamo. For lunch, we'll do a casual riverside dining. In the afternoon, we've got a boat tour. I can make adjustments to this. And then, of course, as I scroll through to the end, I'm going to see all of those native plan items that I can add directly to my plan. So it's extremely powerful. And the other piece I like to point out here is you don't have to be speaking English. So it automatically detects what language prompts are input as. And so right now I'm asking it in Spanish to please tell me, about the highly rated hotels along the Riverwalk. And it does exactly that and returns that information in Spanish. So that auto translation is fully complete for any client that leverages the chatbot within the apps and the widget, no matter what language someone is speaking, all of the chat results will be returned in the language that they input their prompts with. So I'll go ahead and pull my phone up and just show you guys what this looks like in the apps as well. So if you and everybody can go play with this, it is live on Visit San Antonio. You can also grab the Visit San Antonio app from the App Store or Google Play, and you'll see it there as well.
Juliana, I think this will help answer your question about how would it look on mobile?
Yep, I'll pull that up. All right, can you see my phone showing up?
Yep, we're looking good.
All right, so basically what you're seeing here is an update to the home screen UI where there's a prominently placed Ask AI button. As I navigate really anywhere in the app, so if I'm just looking at things to do, I want to check out the Natural Bridge Wildlife Ranch, you can see when I open this up, the Ask AI option stays fixed in line throughout the app experience. So if I wanted to, I can ask a question here. Are dogs allowed at Natural Bridge Caverns? And so you can see it says, yes, Natural Bridge Caverns is dog friendly. They welcome leash dogs on their walking trails. And it also loads up the relevant listings that I can jump to get more information. So the chatbot is globally available. It does persist the dialogue the same way that you saw within the widget. So it doesn't reset or wipe out the person's conversation on a per session basis. And then people can jump natively to those items. In terms of mobile web, the primary difference on mobile web is that it's not going to open in a modal. It'll actually be more of a full screen experience. So it'll look just like what you're seeing within the app UI here on screen currently. So the last couple things I wanted to cover here are where we're going from here. So in terms of how you can access VIA, it can be set up to live in the widget, in the apps, but it can also be set up as a standalone chatbot like you saw today on the demo within San Antonio. So that's basically a new entry point into the widget experience, but it can also be used as just a chatbot for general text-based questions, as you saw with some of the samples that we did today. The analytics that we're tracking on the chatbot include things like the number of VIA users and how many prompts are submitted, the types of prompts that they're submitting, and those are going to be grouped by concept. So basically on the back end within the command console, you'll be able to see that there were 17 prompts over the last week that are related to something about hiking trails or something about major holiday events that are coming up. So they'll be grouped concept, and those will be grouped by AI, so that you don't have to literally go through and see every single prompt, but you'll get the general idea of what people are asking about. And then we can talk about content overrides for certain things that you want to that you want to respond to people if there's limited content. We're also tracking the prompts per session, so how many prompts people are submitting, the chat session duration, how long it's being used, listing impressions that are served by chat. So, for example, the zoo lights on screen here was clicked on from a chat response, and so you'll know that the chat is what both recommended that item based on a prompt, and that's how somebody viewed it, clicked on it, clicked call, view the website, map it, etc. So really know how much interactivity is being served by the chat responses as opposed to just natural exploration through the navigation of the widget and the apps. And then lastly, we'll have the number of items that are added to people's plans via the chat interface. So you can really see how people are interacting with things and building their plans. The content overrides I mentioned a moment ago, basically, if let's say that you don't necessarily have all of your hiking trails in CRM and you don't want to go list them and hike them all out, one option there, if you see that people are sending in a lot of prompts about hiking trails, you'll be able to place a content override that instead of searching the database for hiking trails and outdoor activities, it can just redirect people to a link to your hiking blog, or whatever URL you'd want to send them to. Clients already have the ability to exclude certain listings and data from VIA responses. So if you have, maybe there's a partner business that isn't cooperating with you in a certain way, and you don't necessarily want the AI to return that partner in responses, you do have the ability to mark them as excluded from VIA responses. And then the priorities are already taken into account. So priorities on places are already a part of the logic. So when someone asks a question via the chatbot, we're serving up prioritized items more likely than non-prioritized items. So that's something that you can continue to manage in the command console, but also if it's coming from data sync. So that's pretty much what I had to showcase. Justin, did any questions come in?
Quite a few. So
Awesome.
I'm going to go through these kind of one by one, Eric. So Scott was asking, they have another chatbot feature that they're looking into, and it has social media integration within the DMs of Meta. Basically allowing users to interact the same way on social media and receive the same info as they would within the web-based widget. Is there any plan or is there any integration that we could look at that would potentially have social media integrations now or in the future?
Yeah, I mean, we're always on the lookout for, like I said at the beginning, ways to innovate and advance stuff. So I think the best bet there would be to see, what that looks like, get with our designer, and look at the options. I mean, there's really no limiting the LLMs to where they're sourcing their data from. So in terms of like the content enrichment and the amount of knowledge that these different models have, they're sourcing from social media. So I'd like to know what the kind of connectivity to social media interface would look like in order to really better answer that.
Perfect. All right. Can the chatbot be added separately from the trip planner on the website? For example, to have a link to the trip planner in our main menu and a widget logo for the chatbot alone.
It can. That's exactly right. So the way that I showed it on the demo today was the standalone chatbot. But really, you can have the trip planner or whatever you want to call it, the widget button showing up somewhere, primary navigation or floating somewhere, and then the chatbot can be a separate piece to it. You don't have to have both because the chatbot does essentially drive people into the widget interface. But if you wanted people to be able to just pop over to the interactive map as a first step, that's totally fine.
And then Juliana is asking, how would it look on mobile with so many pop-ups open? So I think what she's asking is not actually on the app itself, but the mobile browser widget if the chatbot was enabled there.
So basically, what's going to happen is it will be a full screen new tab experience. If you've ever opened up the widget on mobile, then what you'll notice is we're not using a modal because we're already on such a small screen that it'd make it even worse for the user if we reduced the size of the screen to interact with the widget. So it does open in a new tab. So if somebody enters some chat message, it will open in a new tab where they can then interact with the content associated with it.
Thank you. And then Gretchen, how does the chatbot decide what is considered a must-see attraction? How would a question like best spots to visit work in regard to listings?
So it's combining the knowledge of the LLM with our data set. So if I said best spot to visit, I'm probably going to get pretty similar results compared to must-see attractions. So it's, these large language models can interpret what the intent of the question is and then return listings in a relevant format, but restrict them to the ones within our system. So you can use any kind of natural language and it's going to automatically understand and respond accordingly.
Thank you. Okay, Silas is asking, in the example of activities in restaurants, it was mentioned that data is automatically pulled from other sources, like verifying the hours. Could the same be developed for lodging to where I could ask AI, find me an available place for tonight, and it would comb the data on my site for recommendations, but verify booking availability with their reservation engines to find places that are actually available tonight?
It is possible, and we're actually currently evaluating various reservation engines for for API access to determine which one we think is going to be best for that kind of solution. So it's not built in right now, but it's coming.
Are you able to click on a place listing directly in the chat bot? For example, if someone is looking, so this is.
So you can see here, I can click on them. We remain in this ecosystem. There's a lot of other chatbots that will basically take you out somewhere else, send you maybe to a different website. So this is returning the native results that we are either syncing from the client system or that have been created via the command console or an import.
And Jennifer, one of the things to mention here too is when you do click on something like SeaWorld San Antonio, we do have the option to synchronize an additional button if it's coming in from your CRM that could say purchase tickets or something similar to that. We have other clients that sync in, lodging, book, make a reservation, stuff like that. So there is a possibility to synchronize those in or manually add those to a listing if you would like. When gathering additional info for locations or events, what happens if the information it finds online differs from that on the client website?
So if the information differs for hours of operation, was that the question, or just different information?
It says when gathering additional info for locations or events. I'm not sure specifically on the additional information, but he is just asking if there's a disparity between what it finds online versus the database. How does the chatbot determine what to present?
So that's interesting. What I can say is that with hours of operation, we're actually validating the accuracy of the data against Google Places API because there are situations where AI can do what's called hallucinate and kind of make stuff up. And so we're actually running through a validation process to make sure that the hours of operation for each listing are accurate in terms of like descriptions and whether or not a place is pet friendly or not. I think that's just going to have to be trained over time. If a client does find something that the chat has responded with that's not 100% accurate, then there are basically toggles that we can adjust to ensure going forward that it is accurate.
Perfect. And Miss Joanne's asking, does the dialogue lay across widget and app? If I start the conversation on the desktop, will I see if I have to move? Will I see it if I move to the app? So I think you're asking if you're signed in, does your chat dialogue transition between your widget and the app?
Yes, so you would have to be authenticated in order for that to occur. You can't just jump into the app anonymously after being anonymous on the widget, but you can maintain the dialogue associated with the user account.
Thank you, sir.
Mhm.
How does this integrate within the search function on the website? Does it or can it replace it?
So search functions on client websites can all vary in a lot of different ways. And so it doesn't necessarily integrate with the search on your website because we're not using AI to index every single page of a client's website. We're primarily, indexing all of the attractions, lodging, events, tours, itineraries, etc., and offers in some cases. So I don't think this is a full-blown replacement for the search on the website, but the AI, that's really what it's great at, is searching and finding relevant answers. So ultimately, I think it would need to be looked at on a case-by-case basis with which client site we're talking about, but I don't think this fully would replace search on the site.
Yep, and that's one of the sites that we maintain. That's Miss Ellen. All right, can you adjust the standalone chatbot for different websites, i.e., microsites?
So adjust the chatbot in terms of like branding and positioning? Sure, absolutely. If we're talking about content restrictions, that would be a little bit more difficult. So let's say that you've got your leisure website and you've got a meeting planners website. To limit the content that gets returned in each would require us basically training the chatbot to only have the data set of meeting planner content versus leisure content. Now, we've done that before where clients wanted a different kind of widget, a different instance of the widget on their meeting planner website than they did on their leisure site. And so it can be done. I don't know if it's necessary though, because, if I try to look up, is there a convention center meetings? If the meeting planner content is in the system, it's automatically going to be returned. So it'd really be more on the use case of the user. If someone's coming to the meeting planner site, they're going to ask meeting planner style questions versus a leisure traveler asking more leisure-based questions.
Thank you. Thanks, Miss Sherry. All right, Nicole. Sorry, I came in the meeting late. That's okay. Aside from the information populated in the POI, where else is the information coming from? For example, if there isn't much info out there for our small community, can we add that information for ourselves?
Yeah, so the data enrichment sinks are probably going to be the best bet. Anything that you add to Command Console or to your website that we're syncing in, is going to be displayed within the listing on the system. If there's limited content for certain things within the LLM's knowledge, then it's probably the best bet to set up either content overrides or make sure your website is structured appropriately for AI bots to read it appropriately. So there's things you can do, like there's an LLM.txt file that's similar or akin to that of an XML sitemap that you can create so that everything's in basically a markdown format for the different bots and scrapers that are out there. But yeah, I don't know if I answered that correctly. The question was, can we add content for AI results if it's not out there?
Yeah, I think you nailed on it. I mean, Nicole, just digging into it is we're obviously going to reference your database as your points of interest, but early on, Eric showed like one of the first prompts that he put in there was just like asking some information on the history of the Alamo, which it's sourcing that data from the internet to pull in an intelligent response that's tourism related, so it's relevant content, but it's not necessarily coming from your database. So it's not that you don't even have to necessarily add it. We're able to leverage the strength of AI to pull in additional knowledge about the area that you may not necessarily host on your database. Can any of the AI features like reviews be turned off for listing? So this is more about the content enrichment. Do you have to have all content enrichment on, or is there pick and choose capability?
You can pick and choose on the different fields that we want enriched. You also have there's overrides. So in certain situations, even Google Places API and AI can get the hours of operation wrong for a business, or maybe there's a small mom and pop shop that closed down for a day or something, and you want to make sure that's updated. So you can implement overrides via the command console for those fields. And so we can say, don't show any reviews, or you can turn off the reviews being shown for a particular listing.
Perfect. And then would be able to keep our beloved character icon on our website and turn him into the chat bot, or is everything moving over to the AI chat button feature? So I think this more comes down to the graphic, the widget graphic.
That's going to be, on a per client basis, what you guys, what everybody would want to do. We can definitely maintain the graphic, but I do think it would be wise to maybe update textually what it says, because if it does say plan a trip, and when you click on it, it opens a chatbot. It's kind of like, it's a little bit more intuitive if it says ask a question or ask AI or something like that. So we can definitely stick with the graphic element, but we might make some recommendations on the textual components included in that graphic.
Perfect. And then Gretchen's asking if it works on the kiosks, which the answer is yes, it does work on the kiosks.
Yep.
And it's at the bottom of once you open up the kiosk into the actual map view, you'll see the Ask AI option to open up right there to be able to type. And what translation provider does VIA use, and how does the translation process work behind the scenes?
So VIA is using Gemini currently. Like I said, we'll be able to switch between Gemini and OpenAI here in the near future, just because they both do things well and they do things differently. And we kind of wanted to explore the different LLMs and also diversify, just so we have quite a few options out there. So the auto translations are happening when we're talking about the context of the chat here. That's just the large language model. That's what AI is doing. It's interpreting the language in Spanish or whatever language, and then replying in that language. The actual translations that you're referring to, I believe, for like auto translations on listings, is a nightly job that runs through Gemini to get the translations.
Um, okay, is the persona generated by Visit Widget, or do we create our own? For example, is Rose AI or IRL?
Is Rose AI or in real life? So there's a couple pieces to this. The prompt engineering that we're doing can be configured on a per client basis. So if you guys said, well, I want it to be, a little bit more witty in its responses, or, we've got kind of a quippy tone that we want to incorporate, that can be modified on a client by client basis. The original prompt that shows up can also be configured by clients. So if I, come to the chatbot fresh, this textual section, maybe you want to update this seasonally with stuff that you've got going on, or you want to highlight something, that can also be modified on a per client basis. And so yeah, yes, we can. We can. I wouldn't say we'll create your own necessarily, but we'll work with you to establish that brand voice and the persona that you want generated within your instance.
Can you guide the information that comes up from the search, like weight the search for members, etc.? Will the same listings continue to come up each search, or does it work randomly?
So the logic for returning results is a combination of the data enrichment fields that I noted, but also prioritization. And then, of course, based on the context of the prompt that comes in, what someone's asking for. So as an example, if I search for highly rated hotels, it's going to use a combination of the ratings that are pulled in from the data enrichment sinks, along with prioritization of listings that the client has prioritized or is being prioritized through sync, as well as any accommodation that is marked as a hotel or a lodging establishment. So it's non-deterministic. So you won't get the exact same order of listings. You can write the same prompt 2 or 3 times, 5 times, whatever, and you can get modified or slightly different results each time. There's not currently any randomization implemented in the search results, because we're really trying to take advantage of the kind of the strength of AI to return the most relevant results based on the prompt that comes in.
Thank you. And can we see which businesses attractions are being recommended most often, and can analytics for those partner forums be exported?
Absolutely, yeah. So the command console analytics that I was talking about earlier are going to include the number of users that are using VIA, the amount of prompts submitted, the types of prompts grouped by concept, the prompts per session, chat session duration, listing impressions that are served by chat, listing views that are served by chat, any interactions that are served by chat. So if a place is open from chat and then click to call, click to website, click to add to plan, and of course the number of plan items that are added from chat results.
And last but not least, Sharice is asking, what is the cost?
Good question. So the cost to set this up, there's a one-time setup fee, and that's about 2K to get it all configured. And then the monthly fees do vary based on the amount of data that each client has that has to be continuously enriched with the enrichment sinks, and just the general amount of prompts that are being submitted. So we can estimate what those costs looks like for anybody on the meeting if you just reach out to us. But typically, we're looking at between $300 to $600 a month to have this fully up and running with the data enrichment and the live free flow chatbot. Now, for this particular group of people, we wanted to offer something to help things out. I mean, everybody's already a client, so a lot of setup is already complete in terms of the integration. So we're actually offering to waive the one-time setup fee for anybody that signs up before the end of the year. So we'll basically be able to get everything up and running for you within a few days of signing off on the order form. And we do have to submit app updates to the App Store and Google Play to add that functionality to the apps. But basically a $2,000 off, no cost upfront to get started. And then monthly fees range between $300 to $600 a month.
Perfect. That's great. And someone who's an anonymous attendee just asked why on San Antonio's site they're not seeing the chatbot. So do you just want to explain what you did there?
Yeah, so basically the integrated chatbot, which is this widget that you're seeing here, is brand new, like as of yesterday. And so the scripts haven't made their way to San Antonio yet for that. But if you open up the widget on San Antonio's website, you'll see the live chat directly in line in the widget. So the flow I showed today is hot off the press.
Perfect. Just touching back on what Eric said, if you sign up prior to the end of the year, we are going to go ahead and waive that $2,000 setup fee. Either reach out to whomever your direct point of contact is at Visit Widget, and we'll make sure to get you in the right hands. Or the best, as always, is just reaching out to support@visitwidget.com. That way, one of 6 of our team members will handle that request and get you a really quick response for anything you need outside of just this. But feel free to reach out to us if you're interested or want to ask more questions, or maybe you need to show a demo to additional people on your team. Just let us know and we'll be happy to help.
And thanks for all the questions. That was great.
Yeah, it was awesome. Well, that looks like that's it for questions, Eric. I think we're good to wrap if you are.
Yep. Thank you, everybody. Everyone have a great rest of your day.
Take care. Bye.